So we'll go back into your report now.
Was the zoning map available to?
Yeah.
I couldn't download it.
Okay. Next is the rest of Fran's report. Okay, Fran's going to continue on with her report. The right page again.
Page 141. So I understand the council received a copy of the memo before the meeting. It was part of the agenda. The first part of the report deals with council meeting procedures. I'm open to discussion or...
Comments, discussion?
That is actually followed by, on page 142 and 143, and 144. I'm not sure if you want me to highlight the major items or...
Sure.
Like I said, I've reviewed the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe Procedural bylaw, number 2 for 2008, as well as the Accountability and Transparency Policy bylaw, number 44 for 2010, and respectfully request that council and staff discuss these matters tonight. The council of this municipality acknowledges that it's the role of council to provide good government for its stakeholders in an accountable, transparent, and efficient manner. As elected officials, member of councils have a responsibility to represent all the ratepayers of the municipality while following procedures have outlined certain sections of the bylaw for clarification. Page 142, under agendas and supporting material. Section 5.3, individuals or groups wishing to appear before council at a regular meeting shall advise the administrative clerk treasurer not later than noon Thursday prior to the meeting, and the administrative clerk treasurer may make a determination as to the deferral of delegations to a subsequent meeting. And this would happen in the event that perhaps we had a big meeting that night and it would probably be a lengthy discussion, and so it could be put off until the next meeting. Such requests for delegation shall include the purpose for the delegation, that's if someone wants to come and discuss a matter with council, and a written outline of the presentation by the delegation if a detailed report is not provided. Excuse me. Modifications to the matters included or to the order of business may be affected by the administrative clerk treasurer and or the mayor without requiring amendments to the bylaw. Under motions, rules of debate and vote, a point of order or personal privilege. Point of order is to be observed by council and staff only. The administrative clerk treasurer and other officers may introduce matters to be dealt with by motion, subject to the notice provisions set out in paragraph 6.1. Under 6.8, unless otherwise authorized by the mayor, guests shall address council through the chair and only when recognized to do so. Then section 12 relates to the conduct of members of council. And section 13, citizens' conduct. Each person addressing council shall limit their presentations to the time allotted on the agenda as previously discussed with the administrative clerk treasurer. It shall be limited to 15 minutes, except where a delegation consist of 5 or more, whereby 2 people can speak for not more than 10 minutes each. No person other than council members and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion either directly or through the members of council. No person shall be allowed to address council or speak in debate without permission of the mayor or the presiding officer. And then under accountability and transparency policy, the municipality ensures that it is open and accountable to its stakeholders through implementing processes outlining how, when, and under what rules meetings will take place. The municipality's meeting will be open to the public when and as required under the Act, and members of the public will have an opportunity to make delegations or comments in writing on specific items at these meetings. In addition, the municipality has adopted policies which ensure that participation by the public can be meaningful and effective through timely disclosure of information by various means, including notices, print media, and websites. So I guess it's just basically a review of how how the meetings are conducted, how they should be conducted, in what kind of manner, so that we can, as council and staff, proceed under, informative and timely manners.
Questions?
Under section 5, agendas and supporting material, as you know, we were how do I say? The ombudsman were informed that we were not doing things properly in citizens' opinions. And the letter that came back from the ombudsman said that we were following practices according to our bylaws and the Municipal Act. However, they stated that on March the 20th, 2012, the Ombudsman's office provided some best practice suggestions regarding adding items to the agenda, and we will be changing our procedural bylaw to accommodate that, I imagine. That you'll now put in a section if we are going to add items to the agenda. It would have to be something urgent, and council could then vote on that and bring it forth at that meeting. So that would be one amendment to our procedural bylaw. Correct.
I have a number of just suggestions that I don't know how to put them in place or not, but I'll just kind of go through them in order of the procedural bylaw. Some of them are listed in the report that Fran provided, but I think we received the procedural bylaw a couple of meetings ago. So under section 4, which is the meetings open to the public, and then 4.2, which is before any part of a meeting that is closed to the public, the council shall state by resolution the fact of holding a closed meeting, and as well as the general nature of the matter considered. I was just wondering if we could state those matters on the agenda itself prior to the meeting, so it's printed online and also in our agenda, so then we know what's planned to be in camera. And then it's also not verbalized, so people in the public that aren't able to make the meeting know it's something we're going to be discussed along that. And that coincides with section 5.5, which is regarding the agenda, where we could add in the in-camera section, most likely below section F, which is the staff reports and before other business like it's currently being done now. So we could just probably add in, instead of just bumping them down after that, putting the in-camera in there. Then the next is also in section 5. That we're speaking about the deadline for agendas, which is the Thursday at noon, and that the agenda will be made available as soon as possible on Friday. I think that we should maybe possibly set a deadline of when it would be online or when it would be available. If it's just a suggestion, I don't know if that's.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do, to specifically put a time that we're going to have it available, because it's by the end of the day. But
Okay.
like last Friday, Donna and I were here after hours finishing it.
Okay, so I guess Friday at whenever it's done, I guess
Well,
it'll be
it's,
fine.
yeah, Friday.
Yeah. And then also, it's not in here, but maybe under a certain section about agenda items. For example, staff, their reports have them individually listed what we're talking about. So for example, this meeting for the administrative clerk treasurer's report, there was 3 topics that we were talking about, which was the accounts payable, the RA consultation forms, as well as the procedural bylaw and the accountability and transparency section. It probably lists them individually, so then it's not just a blanket, this is a report. So, and I'm speaking more about people looking at it online. Since this was, I think, a 34-page document, some people probably missed this last section when they look at it, and I can personally say, I look at the agenda online before I receive the package, because I look at it as a public member, and then when I receive it, so I can kind of compare. And sadly, I missed this section. So I obviously wasn't looking very hard, but I did miss it because I figured it was the rest of this stuff was all about the REA forms. And then just another example, which was the roads report from last meeting. There could have been the update, the 80-kilometer road signs, the letter to Mrs. Wilson, and as well as the garage door openers, just listing them all there. Then section 5.4, which is written reports from our officers shall be, insofar as practicable, be made available to council and including in the agenda package. I'm assuming we're talking about staff here as officers. I think we should also have the date or the time that the reports have to be into the clerk as well, probably at Thursday noon or whenever is efficient, and that all reports should be written, and then if it's something that is important, it can be verbalized at the meeting. But just so that it's always written down. As well, staff could also, in the reports, have what their projections are for the next 2 weeks before this meeting and the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, they have what their projections are, and then when they're looking back, what was checked off the list of what their projections were at the previous meeting. And this would just show what's what's going on, the public can see what's going on. And I see this as a really good idea for the roads department, so then even long-term, to say, for Eldon, you know, we have to get the traffic code or the truck code or road and sidewalks, so we can kind of, you know, later on in the year, we can go, that list is still quite long, we should maybe start looking at something, doing it next year kind of thing. And that would just be for information purposes, we don't have to go through it at a council meeting, and that's just a suggestion as well.
That list is already in the budget.
Yeah, but it's not, that's still not available to the public online, people can't see what's
Well,
going
we
on.
bring it forward when it's available, when staff has had time to work on those issues.
Yeah. Where is it for? Section 8, which is the minutes. Currently, section 8.3, it states the minutes shall be available to the members of council or the public within 4 working days of the next regular meeting. Currently, I think we're posting them online as they're completed after the meetings. So maybe we should state a deadline, 3 or 4 days with after the said meeting. So then we have a meeting today, and then we have a deadline later on.
And that's different from how?
It's currently it's currently 4 days from the next regular meeting. So if our regular meeting is the Monday, then it would be probably the Tuesday, would that be? Prior to that meeting. So I'm saying we would work it the opposite way, where it would be so many days after the meeting was held.
But that can be a little bit difficult with the workload that we have sometimes.
But we could still have a deadline if it's like, say, 5 days or something, so then we know that it will be on by a certain date. And again, it's just a
If
suggestion.
it's 5 days after or 4 days before, it's the same day anyways.
Okay. Then the last one that I had was section 9, which is the, speaking of the bylaws, and it's also section 4 of the provision of notice which was received at a previous meeting. Just regarding if a bylaw is deferred, I think that it should be listed on the agenda at the future meeting that it's going to be discussed or voted on, just so that it is listed on there. I think that's one thing that was in the Alvinson's report. And the next one I have is the provision of notice as well. I know that it wasn't listed on here, but I figured we're talking about bylaws anyway, so I bring it up. That if when we're posting a public meeting and the bylaw for the public notice is out there, that if the bylaw states that they're supporting documents that can be found in the office, that they could also be found online as well. If that's, you know, the Friday before the meeting or something like that, like we currently somewhat do with the zoning bylaw and the official plan and those types of documents, as well as the budget. And the last thing that I have is I believe that there should be a policy, another policy, or maybe put it in the procedural bylaw or something regarding customer service for our staff, or like the counter, or emails, phones, et cetera, that type of thing. And just overall, these are just suggestions, and I'm not saying that they have to be all put in force, or any of them that matter. But the whole point of this is just communication. Communication is really key to transparency and accountability. And I think the stronger our communication is with the public and council and staff, that it'll just be a lot smoother. And that's all I have.
Can you put those in that for us and then?
I will do that. I don't think you'll read my writing, so I will take it up for you.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
You can ask a question if you like.
Can I ask a question then? On Fran's report, she quoted the first 2 paragraphs and missed out the next 3 or 4 in regards to recording, videotaping of meetings.
I was going to deal with that next.
Okay. I'll keep my mouth shut. For the moment.
Okay.
Okay, so second of recording or videotaping of meetings is also a matter that council should consider addressing. We all understand that meetings of council are open meetings. The privacy, respect of individuals should also be followed. In my opinion, there are two different ways that this could be handled. The municipality could require the individual or individuals who wish to video or record the meeting to make their intention known prior to the starting of the meeting, or the municipality could video or tape the meeting themselves, and copy could be made available upon request. An amendment would be prepared and added to the procedural bylaw. There has been some concern received from staff and ratepayers over these issues. I'd like council's opinion on that.
I know I've had a couple of calls from ratepayers that didn't realize they were being videotaped, and they found that their presentation to council was on YouTube, and they were far from impressed. And they also checked with their lawyer, and they said that's an invasion of their privacy. So that's one of the few comments that I've heard from people that aren't in this room tonight. So I don't know whether we can check with our solicitor and see what procedures we can put in place.
Well, I've had discussions with the ministry,
Okay.
so they're pretty current on procedures,
Okay.
and this is how I came up with this report.
That's kind of two suggestions that they put forward.
Yes.
These were what the solicitor suggested?
Not the solicitor, the ministry.
Oh, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs
Yes.
suggested that we either do the taping.
That those were the alternatives.
Okay.
And some comments I've heard of is that when this is on YouTube, at times it's edited, and the individuals don't like that. So if the municipality was to do it themselves, then it would be the full meeting, and
So we'd be recording what the audience was requesting as well, or
Yes.
participating in?
I'd just like to make a comment regarding manipulation of the video. And if we were to give a copy, if we were to do this ourselves, that the individual that receives the copy could do the exact same thing.
they could do the same thing, but we would have the original, and we would know that that's not the correct version.
Comments? Adrian? Yeah.
Well, I like to see the people in the council chambers here, as long as you're not disruptive. And at times, I find you to be disruptive, and I find it to be counterproductive to what we're trying to do here. We are here to represent all of the ratepayers, so we have to take everyone's concerns into consideration. So I'm not against videoing, and if they want a copy, give it to them. As you said, we have the copy, and if they do make alterations, then, you know, there won't be any further videoing. That would be my choice.
Curtis?
I think we went with option number 2 and keep it ourselves. I think we're getting ourselves into a lot more work than what we should be getting into. I don't know. It just seems like another thing that will be on the plate of our staff. And in regards to option number 1, asking the individuals to state their intentions, I need some clarification of, are we going to be accepting some intentions and not others? Or I feel like both options.
It's just to know that if someone comes in that asks, or they inform the mayor that this is going to be videotaped
Okay.
or recorded.
So if Mr. Nagels, I'll just use you as an example. If he was being videotaped tonight, he's not aware of it, and then he ends up on YouTube, and somebody says, hey, I saw you on YouTube the other night, you know, and then he's upset. No, you say you wouldn't be, but if we said something on there, you might
I wouldn't
be.
do.
And this is how this came about. A ratepayer complained about being
More
on.
than once.
Did he
More
not?
than once.
Yes.
And staff.
Okay.
Now, whoever is doing the delegation or speaking would have to tell council that they would prefer not to be videotaped.
And then at that time,
It would be shut
either
off.
ourselves or who's ever videotaping
Mhm.
would have to respect that.
My understanding from talking to my lawyer was if it's being recorded by a third party, they can request that it be turned off.
Okay.
But if it's being recorded by the municipality, it's part of a procedure and that's what takes place.
And again, that would take an amendment to our procedural law.
Yes.
But it was suggested by the lawyer I talked to that we be the exclusive recorder.
I can see that.
Bob?
Yes, Dave, but in all the time I was Reeve, I always had the e-dispatch recorder at the meetings. I always had the clerk call the e-dispatch and inform them when the meeting was going to be, and they were welcome to be there. And I never had any problem with the H reporting something that wasn't right or anything like that. But I do think you're made to get at it of recording yourself and not letting anybody else do it. It's far better because then you have a controlling copy. And you can make sure that nobody fiddles around now. With all the YouTubes and iPods and everything else that's out there, it's just dangerous letting individuals do it. So I would suggest that you're doing the right thing.
Comment?
Yes.
I think that any individual who comes to attend this meeting, if they're up front and they say, I'm going to record the meeting either on a video recorder or a tape recorder for the speech, as long as they inform all the parties that are in the meeting that that's what they're going to do, I don't see what the issue is. I'm sorry, I don't know this anybody, but if he objected to being recorded when he was speaking, then he should ask that the video instrument be shut down while he's making his comments. But if there's other presentations going on here from, I won't beat around the bush, from wind turbine companies, I want to be able to take my own copy to my own study so that I can review it in my own time. I don't have to wait to get a copy from the council that may get lost, it may get water spilled on it, may get all kinds of things happen to it. I've got my own copy, and I inform all the people that are in the meeting that I'm going to do a taping. I'm not trying to hide anything. I think that should be adequate.
What about Rogers?
What about them?
They do got Strathroy's.
They're asked to do Strathroy, yes.
Well, you could ask them to do this one.
We could.
I'll be quite honest, if the municipality does the taping here, I'll continue to tape, okay?
Depending on what our policy developed as.
Right. I understand that Lambton Shores is videotaped by somebody just like myself.
That's their policy. Have
No,
our
actually,
policies
their
different?
policy is very similar to yours. And
We haven't got a policy regarding taping yet.
yeah, they did the exact same sort of thing. They've gone through this for a year. He's continued to videotape.
Okay.
And you can take that up with municipal affairs.
Okay, we can do that too. Any other comments? So have you got some direction now? What do you want to do, what do we want to do?
Council, my recommendation would be to do it ourselves.
Number 2.
Yes.
Somebody like to move that or suggest that?
Before you make the motion, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
If that motion gets approved and voted on and passed, when will that be put in place?
We'll have to develop the policy first, which will have to be approved at council, and then following that, it could be implemented.
So up until that point, we can carry on doing that.
That's correct. Unless we get a legal opinion otherwise.
I just have some questions. If we were to go with option number 2, how fast would the copy be available?
I can't answer that.
We can't answer that at this point.
I haven't done any
Research
research as
into.
far as that's concerned.
Okay, I think that we should do some research before we.
And the costing of it too.
It will be done. This was the first step in bringing it to council for discussion.
We don't have to decide tonight that we're going to record the meetings. We just need to decide whether Fran's going to look further into it or not. Suggestions? Well, I'm going to suggest that Fran looks further into it, and if there's opposition, now's the time to speak.
There's nothing wrong with looking into.
No.
We can look into it and we'll see what happens.
So you look into some cost of some equipment as well as our legal obligations. Anything further? No, it's just Do you have anything further? Anything further from council? We have a motion for the bylaws, which is appoint the drainage superintendent, road closure allowance on Queen and Clarence Street, the comprehensive zoning bylaw, and to confirm proceedings of council April 16th.
My motion to proceed.
Moved by Adrian, second by Curtis. Any more discussion?
Bylaw number 38-2011, that will be, or I guess the zoning bylaw 21-2011, that will be amended as the amendment that I had.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, Brandon made notes of those.
Yes, that'll be changed.
Anything further? All in favor? Carried. And that adjourns the meeting.